Good morning. My name is Joe James. I'm the CEO for the Hunter Joint Organisation, and I'm going to be your MC for the Hunter Global, our International Future Summit. I'd like to start by recognising the traditional owners of the land, the Awabakal and Worimi people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It's my pleasure to introduce Aunty Theresa Dargin to the stage. Aunty Theresa is a descendant of the Dates family. She is a traditional First Nations elder of the Myangal clan of the Worimi Nation. Aunty Theresa will deliver the Welcome to Country.
Hello, Gujiyigu, meaning hello, welcome everybody. Like Joe said, thank you Joe, Murrumbul I'm a descendant, 8 generations of our people who have walked these lands. Our ancestors have walked these lands. We've been caretakers of these lands and waters for many, many decades now. So in regards to a question I was asked, is there something you can explain about us today, how we're connected? The one thing that came to my mind was that gatherings were our people's traditions back in long time ago, before settlement come along. So we gathered when we needed to speak about things or when we needed to make change. Evolution obviously is occurring for the next few generations, and I'm very proud to be here standing with you all today, because this is very important that we discuss what's going on and what can be changed for the next few generations. So it's also beautiful to see everyone's faces, because we've been locked up for a while, haven't we? So this gathering is beautiful, and it's also connecting, not only for us as physical beings, but also emotional and spiritual. So today I'm here, which the invite was very special for me, because my elders, I have 3 remaining of our elders, which was 9 of our bloodline, which is the Dates family. So next generation's elder, as I am today, because of a role I was given when my mum passed away. So I stood in her footsteps as an elder. So now I am an elder. So the next few generations are very important to me. So to come together today in the gathering that we're forming today to talk about something that's very important, about bringing others over to our country. Our country is very sacred to our people. So in order to do that, obviously we have to be able to discuss what those issues may be if they do come over other people. Our lands have to be protected. So in order to do that, discussions will be made. So I thank every single one of you who have invited me here today. And as a traditional person of this land, an elder for the next few generations, I'm quite honoured to be a part of that. And in regards to our next few generations, I'd like to say that they will be our leaders one day. So it's up to us, everybody in this room, to make a difference and to evolve where we don't have to divide one another, which our past and history has always taught us that dividing us was the only thing that mattered. But I'd like to say now is that standing here before you, I will promise you that I will keep every single one of you safe while you walk our lands. Through doing that, our traditional practices will continue for many, many decades to come. And the next few generations will learn those traditional practices. So I would like to welcome you here on our country, which is the Myangal clan. Okay, is my great-great-grandmother who actually walked these lands, my great-great-grandfathers that walked these lands. From Bora River all the way down to Newcastle, many, many k's away. I've been told, and I've actually seen, that we seem to form barriers which divide every single one of our nations and also divides others who are off country. So I'd like to tell you now here today and educate you on our traditional practices, which is our spiritual practices. Our country is bigger than what you all think. So our elders will all remember to teach the next few generations, along with yourself, that we are one, our spirit is one, and we connect when we gather in situations like this. So now I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to my ancestors who have walked these lands for many, many decades and generations. I have been honoured to see 6 generations in my lifetime here. We originate from a long, long way, like I mentioned earlier. It's Bora River all the way down, which is Taree area, all the way down to Newcastle. I'd also like to acknowledge my elders who have passed. I would like to acknowledge your elders who have passed. I'd like to pay my respects to them. I'd also like to pay my respects and acknowledge the next generation, which is your children and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, who will one day be our leaders, and they will be making the decisions and calling the gatherings like this. So now I'd like to welcome you in our traditional language, which is the Katang language. My auntie handed down to me a week before she had passed away. Our traditional practices still live on to this day, on country here. So minyang yurang woblan, yur yego marala barago, ye kutangu barar, katang yurang juli yego. I welcome you all here today, and I'd like to say thank you. Marambul, thank you. And Garpul, I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, Aunty Theresa. Thank you for your presence here today and for creating a connection between our Indigenous traditions around gathering and what we're doing here today. I couldn't agree with you more. It's wonderful to be physically present with everyone here. Before proceeding, a quick acknowledgement for the video we watched at the beginning. It's courtesy of our local agency, Out of the Square Media. We wanted to play it because it really captures the energy and incredible potential of the region. So just to set the scene for the discussion today. Welcome to this important series of conversations where our focus is on one of our most valued and important assets, Newcastle Airport, and on readying the region to capitalise on the expansion of the runway. As we all know, in 2 years, the Hunter will host an international airport. This is a game changer, offering us a once-in-a-generation opportunity for unparalleled growth and diversification. We all appreciate the opportunities the runway upgrade offers, but there's still much to be done to ensure we're ready to hit the ground running by the end of 2023. To support the region to capitalise on this unique opportunity, the 10 councils through the Hunter Joint Organisation have launched Hunter Global, Our International Future. It's a region-wide initiative to boost collaboration, planning and advocacy. I want to welcome the mayors who are with us in the room today. Maurice Collison from Upper Hunter Shire Council, John Connors from Dungog Shire Council, Kay Fraser from Lake Macquarie City Council, Sue Moore from Singleton Council and Nuwatali Nelms from Newcastle, City of Newcastle. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Hunter JO, we're a collaborative body that brings together the 10 councils in the region to provide a united and local voice for our community on shared regional interests. As the hub for local intergovernmental collaboration, our statutory mandate includes identifying key regional strategic priorities, advocating for these priorities, and building collaboration around these priorities with other levels of government, industry and community. Just as important as the collaboration between councils is the leadership of the mayors themselves. Where no one person or institution can manifest an outcome, our leaders modelling collaboration is essential, and I want to recognise the mayors' efforts in this regard. To kickstart the whole of region Hunter Global initiative, over 50 industry experts from across the region came together in November at a virtual roundtable To identify the international opportunities, priorities and constraints in achieving those, you can read the Roundtable report on our website. The discussion highlighted the region's manufacturing sector will gain significant benefit from the runway upgrade. Among the challenges for this sector are talent attraction and retention, skills development for the current workforce. International trade and agribusiness is also a major opportunity and growth area as freight export is diverted to Sydney and Brisbane. Well-designed and specialised infrastructure for produce conservation, transportation will be crucial for the success of these products reaching export markets. Active involvement from a strong SME ecosystem will also be needed. From 2024, the increase in international visitors is estimated to contribute $82.8 million to the gross state product annually. Coordination across the region's tourism and visitor sectors will be key to realising the opportunities the runway upgrade offers. Leveraging the region's strong capability in business, education, research, there's enormous scope to develop relationships and international collaboration further. And adopting an international outlook and scaling the region's activities to compete globally will be critical. Further significant opportunity lies in the defence sector. Astra Aerolab is Australia's newest defence and aerospace precinct. The first stage of infrastructure works is now complete and the future development is underway. The Department of Defence also has significant work underway at the RAF base in Williamtown, including an F-35A operational precinct. These sectors, manufacturing, tourism, agribusiness, defence, business education and research, are represented by more than 200 delegates who are in the room today. Over the next 2 days, you'll hear from experts from industry, government, the community and higher education on connecting into global markets, and you will also help co-design the way forward. Through the summit, our aim is to support the region in your planning to leverage the new international air traffic possibilities and determine the pathways and mechanisms for the region to attract further investment. I can't emphasise the next point enough. Your active contribution over the next 2 days is critical. The final sessions in each day are workshops where we will synthesise what we've heard and map out next steps across key areas. We've got the workshops areas as international access, economy and trade, defence and aerospace, visitor economy and tourism, education, research and innovation, and regional assets. Through the workshops, which are being facilitated by Astrolab, we will collect valuable data and insight from you to support the development of an action plan for the region. This will include the Flight Path to the Future report, working title, which will be a roadmap to leverage the economic development opportunities from the airport runway upgrade. The program has been structured so that you can spend time in each of the workshops. You may be here from the tourism sector or education, but we want to hear from you across each of the areas, so we encourage you to attend as many of those workshops as possible. Please register for the workshops at the front desk in the foyer if you haven't already. Each day we also have an expert panel to discuss further themes covered in the morning's presentations. You'll be able to ask questions of the panellists through the online platform Slido, and the login details should be on screen. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'll go through a few housekeeping matters. We will be in this room for the plenary sessions through the summit. There are 5 sector workshops, as I mentioned, which will be held over 3 floors in this building. A map is at the registration desk, and there are ushers on each floor to help you find the room you wish to go to. Morning tea and lunch will be served in the Cummings room on this level. This is all detailed in the summit program, which is available at the registration desk if you don't have a copy. Looks like this. And if you're on social media, please use the hashtag HunterGlobal in your posts. A couple of other additional items. There's a QR code which poses a question around regional challenges that we see. So I encourage you all to use the QR code and respond to that question. The Wi-Fi here, very important if you're looking for Wi-Fi. City Hall, capital C, capital H, one word. So City Hall 20, 20. And just as letting people know, we do have photographers and a videographer in the room and wandering around the event. So if you're uncomfortable having your image taken, please let us know so we can work with that. And within the program, we just had a slight printing challenge, on the end of day one, it talks about, it has various rooms, which is the various rooms for the workshop. The workshops run from 2:15 through to 4. So we'll come back from lunch, we'll have our panel discussion, and then go from the panel discussion to the workshops. As I said, the workshops are a really essential part of getting the outcomes that the region needs moving forward. So please participate in those. All right. Okay. Well, we may as well start with the cream of the crop. I'd like to introduce our new chair for the Hunter Joint Organisation, Mayor Sue Moore, to say a few words of welcome. Please welcome Sue.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you, Aunty Theresa, for that very meaningful welcome. It was really heart-spoken. I could feel every word of it. Welcome, fellow mayors, contributors and speakers for today. Thank you for being here. I will start with a joint organisation acknowledges the country and history of the traditional custodians of the lands upon which we work and live. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging of our region and of Australia. On behalf of the 10 councils of the Hunter region, welcome to the Hunter Global, our International Future Summit. This is my first address as the Chair of the Hunter Joint Organisations, and I feel fortunate to speaking to you today. Collaboration is the cornerstone of the Hunter Joint Organisation and Councils. We bring together the 10 councils in the region to provide a united local voice for our communities. As the hub for local intergovernmental collaboration, we build collaboration around the regional priorities with other levels of government, industry and the community. Coming together to prepare our region for the opening of the International Airport is one of the greatest priorities of our councils to be collaborating on. The collective impact of the local place-based leadership in the Hunter is important to enabling positive outcomes for our region. Just to divert a little bit away, when the news came in that the airport had received funding, I texted our General Manager Jason and said, we got the funding for our airport, and he knew straight away what do I mean, because we look at it as our airport too, and what benefit one ends of all in the whole region. So we continued to be excited for that and continue to be excited for that. Newcastle Airport is much more than its namesake. It's a regional airport. Now, regional airport is servicing the Hunter, the surrounding communities. The airport is a critical enabler in the local regional economy. The value of this asset will even be greater with the upgrade of its facilities to enable to receive wide-body aircraft. People from all over walks of life in the Hunter are set to benefit from the International Airport, from Scone to Port Stephens, Gloucester, Newcastle, Cessnock to Muswellbrook, and well beyond. This expansion is a major milestone that is harnessed, if harnessed properly, will be a turning point in our region, one that will look back on at some game changer that opened this new opportunities across the travel and tourism, education, innovation, manufacturing, agribusiness, and so much more. As a region facing the trials of economic evolutions and the opportunities that could be realised through the greater access of the global markets, international investment and new job creations are crucial. Collaboration will be key to realising this potential. This development offers with our region between the councils and different levels of government, industry, regional institutions, as well as with partners beyond the region. The mayors of the Hunter councils are 100% committed to supporting the region to capitalise on this unique opportunity. But 2 years will go quickly, so the work needs to start now. I've lived in the region my whole life. Over that time, I've seen many developments, initiatives come and go, some making a significant contribution to the economy by way of life, and others failing to do so without much impact. Through Hunter Global, our future, our international future, the 10 councils have prioritised fostering the collaboration export culture among the hunters industry, business, communities to establish a diverse and growing ecosystem of trade supply in the region and to reap the benefits of this once-in-a-generation opportunity. We are energised about the prospects that the Runway upgrade offers and excited to work with the region of the Hunter prepares to go global. With an impressive program of speakers, I know we will learn a great deal over the next 2 days. A key element of the summit is your contribution to the design of the way forward. The Hunter does collaborate well, and this event demonstrates the strength that we can deliver if we come forward like this in a shared regional interest and a common goal. A continued collaboration in the Hunter Global Initiative will be key to ensuring the unique, local and united voice of the region and our communities are heard. And just to sidestep a bit further, I hope that someday we'll be standing here working on the initiatives that could be delivered by the port as well, because we all see that as our port as well. So I want to thank our partners of this project for their collaboration efforts and hard work and dedication of our region, Newcastle Airport, Business Hunter, Committee of the Hunter and the Newcastle University. Thank you all for your commitment today, and I wish everyone a successful day, and thank you indeed for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. A little bit of insight into Mayor Moore. All the mayors have really embodied a vision and mindset around thinking regionally, and Sue was first amongst those where I picked up regularly. She talked about our airport, our coastline, our infrastructure, and the importance of language can't be underestimated there in that, in the sort of the symbolism and driving the conversations that the councils are having together and that we want to manifest and have with the whole region. So thank you very much for your presence here today, Sue. And I also want to acknowledge our partners, which I was remiss in doing earlier. Just as the mayors come together and symbolise that leadership, the role of our partners in this exercise is also incredibly important in showing that the region is coming together to speak with a united voice to those that we need to talk to. So we'll move on with our agenda. Our next speaker is Dr. Peter Cock, CEO of Newcastle Airport. Peter is no stranger to anyone here. He's expanded the airport's role as a critical economic enabler for the entire region. Within this context, Peter and his team have worked tirelessly to secure federal funding of $66 million for the runway upgrade. There will be an opportunity to ask Peter questions during the panel discussion later today. And at this point, I'd like to please join me in welcoming Peter to the stage.
I think I'm allowed to take this off, but I won't be singing, so you can be sure of that. What a great building to be having this conversation in. I love these old grand buildings that are spread across our region. They really remind me of an era of sort of opulence, or not opulence, but great economic activity when the region was going through such a boom. And perfect that we're here now to talk about really engineering a next phase, that next great economic leap that the region can take part on. So I think it's just such an amazing space. Aunty Theresa, thank you very much. I think you produced some really great wisdom for us then. There will be change, and we can be agents of that change, but be careful to control your culture and keep your culture safe and keep what is important to us safe. So we can expand and we can realise this opportunity, but preserve what is so great about our region and what we love about it. So thank you for that. To understand our airport and to understand our business, you need to understand our purpose. Mayor Moore, thank you. You've picked us in one. We are the airport, we aim to be the airport the region deserves. And that regional bit is very important for us. We think regional, we're not trying to be a city airport. We love that we fly into regional ports. We've got our own airline, Fly Pelican, Marty from Fly Pelican here today. That deserve bit, we've got to deliver the services you need, but also be aspirational for the region. So we think it's part of our job, and our shareholders, Port Stephens and Newcastle, really support this, is to be aspirational for what this region can achieve and to be that economic driver. So the common purpose. So what are we here to do today? Joe talked about that. It's a common purpose to go forward. I think it's, for me, it doesn't need to be, it means we all go to everything and we have to align on everything. I love the entrepreneurship that happens in this region. Campify and Elogio are two recent IPOs that have come out of this region. I think we need to kind of know we're going in the same direction, but really, I'd love to think that there's a few millionaires waiting to happen in this room, because they're going to take advantage of what this international capacity means. And Joe, I appreciate the words you said at the beginning, but for me, it's not about us. It's about what's going to happen. This capacity can perhaps be thought of as a road. And roads are really important because they can get you somewhere, but they only really derive value because people are driving on them and using them, and they're economic enablers. So I'll talk in this presentation about the details and statistics and all those things we need to address. But in its simplest form, we're building a road to the world that makes it easier and many hours quicker and cheaper to get there. So more people are going to want to use that road, and we just got to work out how we get them and what you're going to use that road for. You'll notice the logos. We just wanted to continually thank the help we get and really acknowledge that and really be humble about the way the region gets behind us. It is so much appreciated. A bit about our business so you understand us, and I won't labour this point. We've got a very broad catchment. In fact, it goes beyond the JO area. We go down into Central Coast. We know those people come to us because we capture your Wi-Fi data when you come and log onto our systems. It's a trade secret. We also into central New South Wales and all the way up, really, not up into Queensland because you've got Gold Coast Airport that is more simple for people to go to. But we've got a very broad catchment, and that's a really important factor that we're going to talk about today, about why that's so critical for this to work. The next number is really interesting. It's the amount of international trips taken by people in this area. It's about 1 million. I think about 2 or 3% of those actually come through our airport. So, wow, what an opportunity. That's something that can be capitalised on. The other bits, and I won't read my slides because I know you guys can read, you're all pretty smart people, but the propensity to travel. So that human capital, that we've got the attractive items in this region to attract tourism, but we've also got a community that loves to travel. So what a great combination. So I think we're going on fertile ground with this talk, or with this proposal. So this is our route map. So it shows you where we do fly and where we're aspirational to fly. We added 2 more routes yesterday, I think, with Bonza. Whit Sundays or Sunny Coast, which Fly Pelican currently fly at the moment, but Bonza are going to fly a larger aircraft. And we really hope for more. We've got Tasmania to serve, and we've got Perth, and that kind of almost completes our domestic network. We'll gain some regional, but now we're really in a position to start looking internationally. And you can see those arrows going out to the Pacific and also up into Asia. So that's the exciting future we're here to talk about today. The other number, I guess, that's interesting to bring off this slide is the economic addition to the state, over $1 billion. Airports are such great economic drivers. The other part of our business is Astro Aerolab. So that's not a separate property business and we're an airport, they're integrated. So it's very common for airports to have an integrated airport city concept where you leverage the value from one to the other. We've also got RWLF Williamtown adjacent to us, and we're very lucky to be able to use their runway. So that combination is very rare in Australia and very rare globally, in fact. So to capitalise on that, we have developed a business park and a very people-centred business park. The slide says that we're in design for our first 2 buildings. In fact, it's the first 4 buildings. So we've got a board paper going to our board in about a week's time, which will really... so we're really turbocharging that, and we're not waiting for things to happen to us. We're making our future happen in that space. And that includes and really acknowledging the $11.8 million invested by the state government and also the $7.9 million invested by Newcastle and Port Stephens. There's a slide now which we have to play from the back, or a video, pardon me.
In the Hunter, $66 million will be announced in the budget to invest in widening the runway here at Newcastle Airport to take larger flights here in Newcastle, and we can back in the future of the Hunter for the considerable potential that this region has.
Our first and really strong push is going to be for Singapore, but this gets us to the Middle East. It's just phenomenal, and the impact, we know the benefits. What I'm excited about is the new businesses and jobs that aren't yet created that this will unlock.
The expansion to Newcastle Airport is just such a great addition to the Hunter. And of course, this airport expansion, working not only with Newcastle Airport, but with the Defence Force, will just provide so many more opportunities, jobs and growth for the whole region.
So there'll be works happening in August, and with the RAF work and this work, it's over $180 million. And then once it gets finished, then the flow on of the long-term ongoing jobs start. There were some spoilers in that, so and works didn't start in August, but they're doing surveying on the runway now, and the actual digging and building site sheds will start in March. So it is actually happening. The money is being spent. What we think, and again, this reinforces the point that this is a catalyst project for us. We think and we really want it to create a step change in economic activity. We've got that excitement, and it was so pleasing that the JO and the mayors really got behind this initiative and are really driving this forward. The other really interesting thing that happened only a month or so ago was the 6 cities concept. So we're now part of a group of cities around Sydney. So it's not the 3 cities in the metropolis of Sydney. There's now 6 cities. And you might say, well, gee, does that mean we don't need an international airport because you've got Mascot and you've got the new one they're building? Well, absolutely not. We've actually become a network of airports servicing a much bigger region. And if you think globally, you've got New York, which has got 3 airports. You've got international airports. You've got LA, which has got 5 international airports. You've even got Southeast Queensland, which has 3 international airports. And Queensland, for that matter, has 5 fully capable international airports in it. So for us, it doesn't detract. So the 6 cities concept is actually a very exciting addition, and I think really adds to what we can do today. So we've really changed our ramped up our thinking to be part of that system of cities. So it's another exciting thing. It's a real momentum building, and I think we can all feel that. Some background for people, what does it mean? I won't go through the technical detail. It's just about making the airfield stronger, basically. The fun thing is what it delivers. So it delivers the capability of having larger aircraft. So the 787s, the 777s, A350s, to throw a bit of jargon at you. These aircraft are important because they can travel for longer. So they can travel much further than the aircraft you would fly normally to Melbourne on, which might be an A320 or something. So the range is much more. They carry more fuel, which is why they carry more people. The other really exciting thing is what goes on under the wing that you don't see, and that's more space to carry freight. So they can carry all the bags people need in the plane, and they've got significant additional capacity for freight. So that means coming in and going out, there's an opportunity. We think that the passenger capacity or the passenger flows can support the flights, but it means you've got this product, this freight product that then comes along with it. So how do you use, it's like, you know, the TV thing, you get the steak knives as well. Well, how are we going to capitalise on that? In practice, it means we go from being the dark blue circle. One slide behind myself. We go from being in the dark blue circle, that's where we can get to now with our current runway capability, to being in the light blue circle. So we've put a few teasers in there, things like LAX, Dubai, Incheon, Johannesburg. They all become within our range. Interesting thing, I looked it up, I think there's 4,000 or 5,000 airports globally. So that's pretty amazing, and that with this expansion, we probably get to be able to reach about, 3,000 of them. So the sky's the limit, which I guess no pun intended or pun intended, but some of what we need to do today, if you've got 5,000, you can't all be going at different airports. If you've got 5,000 opportunities, it makes sense as a region to sort of try and bring that down a bit, and so we can have some sort of focus. So is it important? Is it worth doing? That's always a really great question, isn't it? It's an opportunity, but is it worth pursuing? The answer is clearly yes for us. $12.7 billion of extra economic activity over the 20 years. And I think it's important to know that this is extra economic activity. It's not just moving deck chairs and trying to rob from Sydney or whatever. This is new money coming to the region that would not occur if it wasn't for this project. So my question is, not much of that, to be honest, not much of that comes to us. Most of that will go to you. How are you going to capitalise on it? There's businesses to be created here. About half of the money comes from visitor economy type uses, and about half of it comes from freight type uses. So again, this is industries that haven't been created. Sorry to repeat what I said in the video, but that's industries that haven't been created yet, and freight opportunities. So the excitement is the newness of it, and not necessarily just shifting things around. And 4,400 new jobs. So that's an amazing figure, and that's in addition jobs. And they're not just construction jobs, they're full-time forever jobs. And many of them are very high paying and very high skilled jobs. A segment. So we talked about the money coming, and we talked about it coming from about half from visitor economy type uses, tourism-y type uses. I thought it was really interesting, and I credit Stephen Crow, he came up with this concept. So these donuts are about our tourism sector and where our tourism sector comes from. You can see we're on the left. Our international component is about 7%. And if you look at Sydney, they're huge in terms of international because they're the gateway to Australia. So what we wanted to do is show you what a progression might look like, and what growth might be. And Tasmania, and they're kicking goals, and they've been doing a great job for a number of years. They're up to about 14% international tourism as part of their visitor economy pie. And we all know Gold Coast. Gold Coast have been doing it a lot longer than anyone. So, Gold Coast was, I don't know, back in the 70s or something. I can't remember when Gold Coast's boom was. They're now at 25%. So this shows a really great trajectory for us. And sometimes you don't need to start from scratch. You can learn from others, learn what worked for them, but also we can learn from their mistakes as well. But you can imagine where that $6 billion of visitor economy money is going to come from if you can imagine that we might triple the size of our international tourism component. That's big. That's multiple more Crystal Brooks. That's many more bookable products. That's so many more boats and going to the whales and wineries and cellar doors. And it's to again go back to Mayor Moore's comment. That's the whole region needs to contribute to that activity because there's lots of people. That's lots of people. Talked about money and talked about big tickets, 12 billion over 20 years. That's perhaps a bit hard to get the mind around. That's a lot of money, a lot of zeros. What we wanted to do as well show is what's the year by year cost? Like what happens if we just, we don't do anything for 2 years and we just wait for it to arrive and see if it arrives and then happens. Well, this is the individual route impact. So you can see there, and I'll just use Singapore for example, having a daily service, or say it's only 3 times a day to Singapore, kind of creates about 150 new jobs. The jobs are forever. So those jobs, once created, are sticky as long as that activity occurs. And it also injects $33 million a year into the economy. So you can see that if we don't act now and we don't have that sense of urgency, we're missing out on 150 jobs and $33 million annually. So there's that annual cumulative effect. So the sooner we start utilising this capacity, driving things on the road, then the sooner we will start getting this money flowing in. So that's all good. So hopefully I've got you now kind of really excited and revved up that it's a great thing to do. But how do we make it happen? So I know we're very interested to hear from the workshops and how you guys are going to activate. But what we wanted to do is talk to you a bit about our side of the business and a bit about the aeronautical side. It's tough for airlines. A 787 might cost $250 million. Operating cost, if you sort of work that back to an hourly, flying to and from Singapore to Newcastle might cost them $200,000 or $300,000. So airlines don't just do that on a whim. Talk to Marty in the break; he'll tell you about starting up routes. And the longer you fly and the bigger the aircraft, the more expensive. So if you were going to invest $250 million, you'd probably want to have some confidence, wouldn't you? What the airlines want to know is, well, where do people fly already or travel already? Because we know if they travel there already, we know that's a pretty safe bet they're going to keep travelling there. That's all COVID aside and all that sort of stuff. So this is the data we can collect, and some of this data is available on where people travel. You can see there's New Zealand, US and China, and there's got the inbound, outbound splits, which is people coming in and locals going out. They're the 3 big tickets, but then there's a lot of routes which you've got a couple above 100,000 and then a number above 50,000 for current traffic. This is kind of, I should put a warning, this is a bit of a technical bit here now. You think of people travelling, there's 2 ways. There's point to point. So we get on a plane and we fly to Melbourne, that's point to point. Or there's hub traffic. So I get on a plane, I fly to Brisbane, and then I continue on and I fly to Japan to go skiing. I'm using Brisbane as a hub. So you can think of it as a wheel, hub and spoke. So point to point, you capture the people going to that destination. Hubs, people travel through, so you can effectively capture more traffic. So if you look at our existing traffic, and we put the yellow box, those destinations are either hubs or they are well serviced by hubs. You will see Indo in there, so that's Bali traffic. So the second bar along is Bali. So Bali's a bit of an exception, but for the sake of a slide and our comms team, we just put a big box around it. So whilst New Zealand, absolutely, and we're chasing New Zealand, and we're absolutely convinced we're going to get them back, you've got US, China is mostly inbound, and China is actually captured by a number of these hubs. So for us, it makes sense to go for a hub because New Zealand point to point, we've got a tick, we're going for that. But then with the other routes, it's much better because you capture much more options with a hub. And this is that data expressed in a different way. You can see that the hub traffic goes 54% into Asia and 33% into Europe. So if you've got a hub that services both Asia and Europe, you're on a bit of a winner there. Globally, the major hubs are either the Middle East is a hub, and that they fly, of course, onto Europe or into Africa and also down to the subcontinent. But you've also got Asian hubs, which are Singapore, KL, to a lesser extent, Hong Kong, say. So, because I already said on the video that our target's Singapore, but I'm trying to work you through the logic. This wasn't just picked out of the air. There's quite a lot of thought has gone into this. So you can see that route network. So that's actually, this is the deck, because we've already been talking to airlines. This is from a slide deck we have presented to both Scoot and Singapore Airlines. If you look at Singapore, it connects to 400 destinations. So as soon as you can get to Singapore, you've got a direct link then to 400 other places, and there's 100 airlines serviced out of Changi. So you can see that gives us a significant opportunity. Singapore is by far the biggest Asian hub, KL less, and the others less. So for us, that's really attractive. And also, there's a significant number of people now who schlep down to Sydney to travel to Singapore. So there's a lot of familiarity, and people are very attuned to flying through Singapore to either go skiing or go off to Europe. Very common thing to do. Auckland is actually also a hub. Auckland, you can fly to Auckland and then go to the US. So you remember back a couple of slides, US was a big demand. So if we get Auckland and get Singapore, there's nowhere basically in the globe you can't get to without, in 2 flights, you can get to most places in the globe. So for us, that's kind of what our region deserves. So that's great. So the airline goes, okay, yeah, well, we can capture, you've got the traffic, we can understand there's that existing demand, and that's great. I talked before about we're not shifting deck chairs, we're gaining new traffic. It's actually interesting, by the way, on this, one of the things that Scoot said to us, they said, well, okay, you've got a big catchment, we understand that, but gee, how are you going to bring people in? How are you going to stimulate that inbound? How are we going to go from 7% to 14% to 24%? What's that journey for you guys? Here's an example of where it's worked. So this is AirAsia X, a low-cost carrier going into Melbourne Airport. It's a bit old, but people are people still. So Melbourne's, as you would imagine, a very mature market. But AirAsia X going in there created a significant growth. We've also seen that when we flew to Auckland. The amount of traffic coming to and from Auckland into our airport significantly increased. People they like directness. They like it to be easy for them. I was going to say they're lazy, but that's the wrong way to put it. They like amenity. You like direct flights, and strangely, they'll fly to Sydney and take longer to get a direct flight than hubbing through us. It's the way people behave, and we've got to understand that and accept it. So this is a bit of a summary slide, and those dotted lines are important. So you can see boxes around, this is current traffic. So this is what people currently do. And the boxes are around Indonesia, but also Malaysia is a hub, Singapore's a hub. New Zealand is that direct point-to-point traffic, but also some hubbing. The lines represent frequencies of aircraft movements. So what we did is try to show, are we all, wasting our time here, or is there a really viable opportunity? You can see that for a wide-body aircraft, and I think we used a 787, it's on the bottom, it's about 787s, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, and 7 times a week. So you can see the existing traffic is already sufficient to generate at least 3 times a week for all the red boxed, 5 times a week for Singapore and New Zealand. And some of those routes could probably justify daily if we can capture all that traffic. So that's pretty exciting. This is pretty real. And so when you're thinking and talking about it, don't think of it as pie in the sky. You should think of this as real. It will happen. How are you going to capitalise on it? So again, that sense of reality, I think, is really important for us. But who? I said that Singapore had 100 airlines. Well, we can't go after 100 clients. That's not very good use of your time. What we try to do is learn from others. So we've put the experience for Gold Coast and we've put the experience for Abalone Airport. And you see the people that fly in and out of Gold Coast and the people that fly in and out of Abalone Airport. The red box is around a category of airline called low-cost carriers. So they're the no-frills or low-frills airline. They look to cheap and to have a lower cost base. That said, some of them actually have a business class product. Some of them actually have a relatively good product, like Scoot, for example. So you can see, for regions and airport like us, the logic goes to getting a low-cost carrier. I think it's really interesting in terms of what the traffic we'll have. Is that what our demand is? That might be the story for Gold Coast. Is it the story for us? That's probably something to explore and understand. Some people don't like flying on low-cost carriers. That said, everyone from our region flies on Jetstar. Everyone loves Jetstar. They're a low-cost carrier. They're represented in that. They have a lot of routes out of Gold Coast. So who are we targeting? Who are the people and who are the users of these facilities? We just wanted to contrast Australia's travellers, international travellers, versus the Hunter region and the sort of the visitation. Who's travelling? And this is not by air. This is just because our international is very low. But so this is just general to the region. You can see, and for each of you, this will tell a different story. For us, the story it told was an underrepresentation of business and education travellers. So how do we keep and grow some bits of the donut, but really expand other bits of the donut? Some of this stuff we're doing more research on as we speak, that we're actually going to try and explore this more, because we think this is a kind of a pretty vital thing. Who are we talking to? Who are we trying to attract? What messaging are we going to put out there? And I know that each of you will have insights that we don't have, because you deal with the people when they arrive. We don't deal with them. They just walk through our facility, but they're walking through us to come to you guys. So that's the real beauty of all coming together. We can put the bits of the jigsaw piece together. Business and corporate travellers, why we think Singapore. So again, sorry to be pitching, but we're pitching Singapore again. There's a significant connection between us and Singapore. There's F-35s. The University of Newcastle have got their business school up there. They've just opened a new building earlier this week. There's trade opportunities. Again, don't think we're thinking above the wing and below the wing. And below the wing has to work both ways, and above the wing has to work both ways. So it's no point having just one directional traffic. You need both to make it sustainable. And with freight, you need the inbound as well as the outbound freight. So we think there's both inbound and outbound freight story for Singapore, as well as inbound and outbound tourism and passenger trade. And again, have a look at this. It'll speak to each of you differently. Each of you will see an opportunity in one dot point than another, so I won't labour it. Visiting friends and relatives, very important travel sector. If you're a friend or a relative, you normally, it's about nationality, because that's where they're internationally coming from. This just shows what our current makeup is. You would have seen Europe was very high on our current list. I think it was after China. So that shows we've got a lot of UK based people here in the region, Asia, New Zealand and Europe. So as our region diversifies, there'll be more VFR, visiting friends and relatives routes, might evolve. But again, this points to Singapore as well, or points to an Asian hub, because it services Asia, Europe, and of course, Auckland will service New Zealand. So between Auckland and Singapore, you put a blanket over all those destinations. Freight, very important part of the story. These are our ideas about what those what the connectivity might mean, what the business connectivity. You've got education. We've had a bit of a guess at some of the agriculture that's based on some research that's been done. There's KPMG has done some research a number of years ago. There's other research undertaken. I know there's freight experts in the room, so I won't embarrass myself by trying to talk too much about freight. I'm not a freight expert, but we need to know about freight. It's really important, and that's a vital part of our aviation business development story. So I'm excited by the outcomes from freight, and I'm excited by the new businesses it will create. I'm glad someone mentioned early on the Port of Newcastle. Again, we're very supportive of that. We think that together between ourselves and the Port of Newcastle, the sum of the parts is greater than each individual. So it allows industries and supply chains to build. And the one I love to mention is meat. So fresh meat goes out on aircraft, frozen meat can go out on containers. The processed outcomes it goes into cattle food or fertiliser, that again goes out in containers. So if you've got a container port and an international airport, you can give a whole industry a way of utilising its goods that's direct. So we think that's important. We've got great road network connections here. We've got lots of things that get us on the playing field, but we need to then now start utilising those. Co-investment. I talked about the cost of airlines and cost of flying. So airlines don't do it without support. They say, how are you going to help me? I think it's important to remember that we've got competitors, and don't think small, think globally. Think about a new resort being built in the Philippines. Think about something else in Europe. Think about Korea, a new attraction they've got there. They've got lots of choices. We're not the only region who understands the economic value of international travel. Lots of regions do, and lots of regions are probably meeting today to discuss how to capture it. So airlines will say, well, if you won't help me take that risk, I'll go to someone else who will. The great news is the government, Destination New South Wales, has put $60 million on the table to help fund that and help partner to attract those airlines. So again, we talked about momentum. We talked about the things coming into place to make this real. That $60 million is a really important aspect. And how do we bring that together? I mean, our challenge on that, and we've tried to put a few challenges in this to keep you awake, is who will partner with us? How do we all come together? How do we build the freight facilities that will be required? What are the investments that are going to be required, and who's going to do those? All sounds easy? Well, maybe not. There are things, there's great ideas sometimes don't happen. I won't go through all of these, but I will highlight some. What's our value proposition? We have a unique value proposition? I know HCC, DC have been developing a prospectus, and that starts talking about what our value proposition is, or what we are as a region, or what's our unique reason that people would come to us. But I think it needs evolution, and I think we all need to get behind that. It's not just one or other, it's that multiple vision. Freight, again, I've talked about freight. I think a really interesting one that came to us. Are we really ready to be a global city? What does that mean? Does that mean everything from making sure, I don't know if Alipay still works, but Alipay or the right signage or the right foods and all the correct elements, it's really stepping up. I mean, we talk about step change, but it's a global city is perhaps a different feel. And I think we are ready. I think we've got all the bits, and we've got the fact that they've got this room full today means we are ready, but I think that's a challenge we've got to come to grips with. A bigger challenge for us is the runway, the airfield's funded, so that $66 million gets the planes to land, but they'll currently come to a terminal which is only capable and was designed for the smaller 180-seat aircraft, and all of a sudden you've got a 320-seat aircraft. So as you can imagine, the spaces need to be a bit bigger. The border processing, the agencies require different things. They require things like dog channels and the dogs sniff your bags and all those sort of things. So there's a huge range of additional things that are required. And that upgrade, we're in the middle of designing it, so we've not waited for funding for that. So currently it's unfunded. We don't have a stream of debt that we can use to build the $55 million extension. But Newcastle and Port Stephens have invested, and we're about at $5 million now, to get this project running, because we know that every year you don't put it in place, that's, it's $33 million from an Asian hub you don't get. It's 150 jobs you're not getting. So our shareholders are investing early, but we still need the $55 million. We've had a number of conversations with both state and federal governments about co-investing, because the benefit comes broadly into the economy, not so much to our business. We probably earn less from a passenger than the first taxi driver does, or the first meal earns more from the passenger than we do. So there's about value capture. It's about how do we as a region enable this economic catalyst to come into being. And with that challenge, it's probably where I'll leave you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That was a fantastic scene setter. I hope everyone, I wrote down a stack of stuff and different questions. I've got capture your questions so we can put them up on Slido when Peter comes back for the panel session later. There's a couple of things. The progression slide you put up where you had the Hunter, Tasmania and Gold Coast, it took me back to a strategy session the mayors had in Port Stephens last year. And they identified 4 strategic themes of all the myriad of different opportunities that each of the local governments think are worthy of pursuing. They really tried to bring them together and say, well, what are the key thematics? And jobs in a growing economy was one, and connectivity was the other. And the things that really the sort of the outcomes that they were looking at were a globally connected city region, and really responding to the changes in our economy. And that progression slide made me think of that, because it takes time and energy, to get there, and that's why it's critical that we start now. We know there's structural changes in the economy, but we can have a vision. Having a great vision for the future, utilising the airport is a great risk mitigant as well to that challenge. And the other thing that struck me was you talked about people who love to travel and thinking about a global city or a global city region. I've started through this project and listening to my team work on this, just seeing a different level of energy and different sort of thinking about the future. And I thought, well, what about the next generation of people who come through, our children? They will see themselves differently. Right, they will think about themselves. They won't think about themselves as, okay, if I need to go somewhere, they'll see themselves as part of a more globally connected. They'll see themselves as part of a global community, and I think that can't be undersold either in terms of how that helps the sorts of questions we want to get to later on, where Peter's created a connection between the infrastructure conversation and the outcomes that we want. So, and when we talk about outcomes within the JO, we're really, in this project, we're talking about what are the products and the services that will generate income into the region that support jobs and the quality of life. And I suppose highlighting where those products and services are going to come from. They're going to come from SMEs. They're going to come from businesses. It won't come from government. It'll come from all the individual decisions that people make. And so, really love that session. I hope it provokes a lot of questions I was writing down what excites me, what makes me hesitate. Think, okay, if I'm running a business, how do I tackle access to certain markets? What are the things that you really think about? Is it transport costs? Is it relationships? Is it time savings? What really help you help businesses create that product or service into those markets? And I had a bunch of questions of things that I wanted to know more about. So capture all of those, take them into the workshops, and really encourage you to download in those sessions. Just to create one final link before we go for a break, we will take all that information. We'll help. We talked about an action plan, which is basically a policy document for us to say, okay, what do we align around? And then we'll turn it into some advocacy pieces, probably some video and some reports, and we'll use that with obviously seeking collaboration from different levels of government, but also to support the airport in its pitch to those airlines, so they can see that the region is proactive and thinking about this, and we see that as an essential output of this exercise. Our next speaker is Ollie Lamb. He's the Managing Director of Avalon Pacific, and he'll be joining us from the US over Skype. That's going to happen after morning tea. So we're going to break for morning tea now. We've got a good solid break. Really want to encourage the conversations. Let's be back in the room just before 10:45 for Ollie Lamb. So thank you to the speakers this morning, and see you back here at 10:45.